Being Indian is not a superpower. I mean, I wish it were. Give me super speed, and I'm no longer late to everything. Give me invisibility, and I actually was at that meeting. You just didn't see me. Give me time travel, and well, I might be going back to 1492. I'm waiting on a certain beat with a rocket launcher. But those aren't the kind of superpowers I'm talking about. To get at what I'm talking about, let me start here not even talking about Indians at all, but fiction. You're writing a story and your protagonist is a baseball player, or a war veteran, or a typist, right? But while getting the story or novel together, you've of course also been conditioned on the media we all are, meaning you're also familiar with Marathon Man. It's an amazing William Goldman novel, amazing William Goldman scripted movie. I don't mean to take a single thing away from it. Would only ever try to heap more praise on it, and urge us all to even do half as good as it does. For anyone out there who hasn't read or seen Marathon Man, this one dude's a runner. Maybe not Prefontaine good, just Dustin Hoffman good, but still, he's committed. It's always on his mind. It's always getting his feet out there, slapping the asphalt day after day. Through a series of Hitchcockish shenanigans, though, this self-styled runner ends up embroiled in a Nazi plot involving stolen Jewish diamonds. This is the mid-70s, only 3 decades after World War II. Lots of intrigue and close shaves and torture, just as the story doctor always orders. But at the end, this runner, in serious mortal jeopardy, not just for teeth, but for his life, can you already guess what he does? He uses this running as a superpower, as a surprise ability that allows him to escape, survive, win the day, foil the Nazis. And we all want the Nazis to be foiled, meaning his running is a superpower we all support. There's nothing wrong at all with that. You've seen the build before. It tends to work. Writers are magicians, always slipping things into your pocket early on when you're not paying attention, then pulling them out precisely when they need you to go, ah. The trick with Marathon Man, though, this runner, Dustin Hoffman's character, he elected to be a runner. His using that running to save his own life is sort of like an investment finally paying off. No, he didn't know he was going to need his conditioning and technique to escape some Nazi holdovers, but now that he really, really needs to run, it's not like he's not going to use that conditioning and technique, right? Like I was saying, this is Golden. This is William Goldman. However, allow me to back up one more time, if you will. When I was coming up through grad school, I had this kind of aha moment in fiction workshop. In my second or third story for this semester, I mentioned that my protagonist was Blackfeet. Nothing momentous, just somebody asked, he answered, move along, now it's still the same story. But the workshop couldn't quit talking about him being Indian, which was pretty weird to me, since all my characters had always been Blackfeet all along. Just the story never prompted them to announce it. I always just assumed it, and didn't hang dream catchers and braids all over them, as that would be a lot like making them wriggle into loincloths so they could kind of fit the limited expectation set of the world, pretty much. The workshop was reading my story completely differently now that they knew this dude was Blackfeet, though. They kind of put on tragic glasses. They set their eyebrows in that way that indicates we're talking about issues now. And their voices were all sort of kinder, predisposed to pity and charity instead of carving up my pages, as my pages for sure needed carving up. Like I say, it was weird and kind of off-putting. It was my first time to encounter that. It wasn't my last. Once I started publishing novels, I quickly found that at book events, I get questions that focused on Indian culture and life and history and tragedy, always a tragedy, more than on the story itself. It had stopped being weird by then, just felt wrong, like I was part of some unwholesome transaction, like I was selling my identity along with my books. So I ran away, said, screw this, I'm going to write about zombies and slashers and werewolves and private detectives and toilets and haunted houses and demons and giant invisible time-traveling caterpillars. And they're going to be so loud and bloody that nobody will be able to ask those Indian questions anymore, and I can start selling books, not myself. Worked great, and now I'm kind of able to still do the horror I love, but while also writing the people I know. This novel I have having made, The Only Good Indians, is Blackfeet, and it's a slasher. People and places I know, a genre I'll never start loving. Still though, every once and again, I'll give a draft of a story or a novel to someone, and they'll come back with that old saw I'm always hoping isn't a thing anymore. Okay, so this character is Indian, but why does it matter to the story? When will this Indianness, activate? Or to say it differently, so this guy's a runner, you say. What if his running could be the thing that he uses like a surprise at the end to win the day? Sub-end baseball player using her fast pitch, or war veteran using his military training, or typist using their speedy fingers to enter a page of dictated code just in time to save the missiles from deploying. When you sub in other things for Indian, that question of why is this character Indian wants to make perfect story sense. To employ the kind of economy the reader expects, you use all the pieces of this puzzle you've already laid out. Except the baseball player wasn't born with a diamond in her eyes. The soldier didn't come out knowing the chain of command. The typist doesn't have QWERTY actually in the tangled letters of their genetic code. They all went the direction they went, made the choices they made, and so became a baseball player, a soldier, a typist. Being Indian, though, that's not a choice. You're born Indian, you die Indian, and you're Indian pretty much the whole way through, except maybe at Halloween when other people get to buy a costume of you. You may end up also being a baseball playing typist on a submarine, but before and underneath all that, you're Indian, man. Nothing to do about that. Two, we can take that question apart a little, can't we? Why is this character Indian? The assumption underneath that is that the default setting is non-Indian, not native, unindigenous. That's probably a bit too wide, a touch too charitable of a read, really. The real default setting that question assumes is the not weird norm. It's white. So the question of when will this Indianness activate, it's actually, why is this character not white? There must be a story reason for that deviation, right? I tell myself this isn't meant to be asked in any violent or damaging way. I tell myself it's not intended as colonialism in action. It's just some close reader's awareness of fiction's impulse, obligation even, to utilize what's there and justify its presence. I submit that a character being Indian doesn't need justification, though. I submit that while I might want being Indian to be a superpower or a special ability, it's not. Contrary to popular myth, being Indian doesn't even get you free college, right? It doesn't jack you into casino money, it doesn't make you automatically in tune with nature, and it doesn't make you any sadder than everyone else about the trash along the highway or in the creek. It also doesn't make your cheekbones or your nose like this or like that, your name exotic to American ears, your hair long or short, your religion here, there, or anywhere. It just means you're Indian in a world that's largely not Indian. It means you probably don't see yourself in the main role on the television show. It means you're reduced to being the most insulting mascot on Super Bowl Sunday. It means that people will be rocked back on their heels a little bit to learn, gasp, you're vegetarian? But how can that be? We don't use every part of the buffalo anymore, no. Nowadays, we use every part of our self-control just to get through the day. And yes, there's heritage there if you want it. There's community to plug into. There's history to engage and resist. There's fights to fight and stereotypes to undercut. But there's also just simply being born as you were born. There's being Indian. At a certain part in your story, you're not compelled to tie a bandana around your head, unsheath a tomahawk, and become the opposite of John Wayne. You're not only interesting when standing at the barricade of a televised protest. You don't even have to be interesting at all. You just have to, keep being. The best way to be the protagonist of your own story, which is also, I submit, the best way to write the protagonist of your story, is just to assume Indianness. Say it out loud on the page if you want or don't, it doesn't matter. You'll know. What if it being Indian were a superpower, right? Whatever situation I'm in that I don't want to be in, I just peel my shirt open to reveal my uniform beneath. The one with Custer died for your sins tooled into the belt. The one with my heroes have always killed cowboys beaten on my back. The one with fry bread power stretched across the gut. And then a hawk screeches and the sun flashes, and like that, you get the picture. Or I do. Each time I'm asked, why does it matter to the story that this character is Indian? My answer, it doesn't. But it also very much does. Thank you.